Now? Yes, yes, great. Welcome, guys. I think we are having some technical problems. Still fine with it. Thank you anyway. Sorry for the delay. And here we are. Very warm welcome to everyone whomever presented today. And today is we have Sarah from Teal Software, who is also the sponsor for this event. And also Nick from Microsoft, who is supporting us especially. And welcome everyone. And I can see some of the online people logging in, and Nathan is helping us to do the Q&A and moderator things, so which is really good. So this is all about just a quick background. So this is the Auckland Power Platform user group. So this was initiated by Charles, who left Microsoft now. He was like community program manager long back. So he was like, he encouraged us to start this in Auckland, and it was supported by various people, Daniel Lund and Bill also from Nick. So this is how this is like. Also, my special thanks to Greg and Hamish. So they are kindly accepted to start this and as a separate group. And we can see like there are more people coming in and joining online every month. So our key area of focus is, you can see all the Power Platform products, and especially the new member, which is Power Pages. Previously, it was Power Apps Portal. Not only that, so we have so many MEPs and key expert speakers in this area. So our past events are really successful, and so today this event will be also like a very excited one. And so this is basic housekeeping. If anyone is in online, please go on mute. And also this slide deck will be shared, and Sarah will also share her slides once the presentation is done. And if you guys haven't registered, please register. I think Nathan will add the links in the chat. Also like what we do. So we do currently it is a monthly meetup, and also like people from different places across the globe, like MVPs and super users, also like key experts from our platform especially. So they were like, they are the key speakers of this group. And also like the whole purpose is to have fun and understand the complete technology, and you can utilize it in your business, right? And also like you can also like upskilling, which is the key thing. So today agenda is all about like the main show, which is from Sarah, and also there are some key links. I think Nathan will add that shortly. So we have Auckland Power Platform user group, which is officially hosted in the Microsoft platform, and also the Dynamics 365, which is led by Greg and Hamish, and Wellington, which is by Rami, and Christchurch, which is by Rich. I think Richard is still there. Yes, yeah. Yeah, so those are the people. I will add all the links. Just one more thing I wanted to share. I think I'm still in the old one. So yeah, so the whole show is all about Sarah, and today we are here to know about how to scale down the right business solution for your Power Apps implementation. I think this will be like a complete fun. I will hand over to Sarah shortly. Yeah, so Sarah Bennett, is it your own company, Sarah? Teal.
Yeah,
yeah. She's a principal consultant and also like a technology coach for RIA.
Coach.
Yeah, RIA coach. And yeah, so I will hand over to Sarah to start her session. Thank you again. Like warm welcome to everyone. Yeah.
I may not even need to connect because I'm already connected. I'm not already plugged in.
Yeah.
You want to just try and advance the slide real quick?
Oh. Right. Thanks so much for that introduction, Raghavan. As Raghavan mentioned, I'm Sarah Bennett, and I work I am also Teal Software. So I work with our platform, and my focus is on small and mid-sized Kiwi businesses. And what I'm going to talk about today is talk through some of the differences between when we're implementing Power Apps or any technology really, when the differences in implementing in a small business compared to implementing in an enterprise. So a quick overview of what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to give a bit of background, a bit of my background. And then we're going to look at what a small business is, how do we define a small business versus a large or a medium-sized business. I'm going to look at the reasons why we need to take a different approach, and then look at some of the things that we do differently when we're working with a small business as opposed to a medium or large enterprise. We'll end with some Q&A, and there's also some spot prizes along the way, okay? So I'd like you to pay attention to what I'm saying, and there'll be some prizes along the way. And can post those prizes within New Zealand as well for those who are joining online want to be in with a chance to win as well. Okay. So to give you a bit of context around the type of work I do. Our customers, Teal Software customers, have paid Power Apps subscriptions, okay? Whether that's a per app plan or a per user plan, our customers have paid premium Power Apps licenses. I'm not building Power Apps on Microsoft 365. We don't sell Dynamics 365 licenses. So what this means in practice, when we're creating environments for our customers, we always select add a Dataverse data store. So if you've created environments on the Power Platform before, you'll recognize some of these toggles. We always add a Dataverse data store, and never do I ever select enable Dynamics 365 applications. Okay, so although sometimes we might create some Canvas apps based off SharePoint lists, or we've created Canvas apps that link into a SQL Server database, an Azure SQL Server database, 90% of the work that we do is model-driven apps built on Dataverse for small and medium-sized businesses. So in terms of my background, I have been in the IT industry since early 2001. I studied at AUT University. I got a software development degree, and what that taught me was all about how to write code, the right way to write code, how to design databases, understanding the software development lifecycle. And I also worked at AUT, and my first technology job was as a report writer at AUT University, writing in VB6. We used a VB6 add-in called Active Reports. Early in my career, I spent a lot of time in SQL Server Management Studio writing SQL scripts. So I have a really strong database background. And quite early in my technology career, what I discovered was that I was really frustrated by all these error messages that I kept getting, like the DLLs were incompatible and I didn't even know what a DLL was. And what I discovered was that I had a really good technical understanding, but that my strengths were in working with business users and understanding what the users needed and being able to translate that into something that the developers could understand. So I was like a bridge between the technology and the business. And so I moved into a BA career. So I've got a strong BA background. I was a BA for many years. So I worked at AUT University, which, as we know, is a large enterprise. And then I moved into consulting in the Auckland IT consulting market. And again, I was working mostly with large organisations or nationwide organisations. And just over 10 years ago, my husband and I moved our family to Geraldine in South Canterbury. So I don't live in Auckland. I used to live in Auckland. Now I live in Geraldine, South Canterbury, population about 2,500. And when I moved there, although remote working was a thing, it wasn't ubiquitous like it is now. And I thought that I was putting my career on the back burner. But as it happened, in little old Geraldine, there was a software company in Geraldine. They implemented business software in small and medium-sized companies in the South Island and some nationwide, okay, predominantly in the Canterbury area. So that was my introduction to moving from enterprise scale projects to small business, small to medium-sized projects. And so over the last 8 years or so, I've had to refine how I work. I've had to scale down my enterprise experience and to make it applicable to small businesses. So I formed Teal Software late 2019. And it was around that time that I discovered the Power Platform, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI. And I love working with the Power Platform. So I upskilled. I started creating apps for me to use internally in Teal Software. I have an Azure SQL Server database that I designed for my business data. I have Canvas apps that link into that SQL Server database, and I manage my own business using Canvas apps that I've created on SQL Server, as well as some Dataverse model-driven apps. And when I started Teal Software, the Power Platform was a small portion of what I did, and now the Power Platform is all I do. I don't take on any other projects. I only take on projects that allow me to work with the Power Platform. So when I'm talking about small businesses and the type of work that I do with small businesses, I find that the projects we work on tend to fall into 3 categories of the type of projects. Okay, so the first one is that I have customers come to me, and despite the fact that there are any number of apps, solutions, platforms, and technology available in the world, I have some customers come to me because they can't find what they're looking for. Okay, they can't find something that is right-sized for their business. And so they may have been looking at some pre-built packages, and that a pre-built package may be full of all these features that they will never ever use. And what they need is a subset of that whole package. Okay, the subset of the features offered by that package. So what we build is just what they need. Okay, we build just what they need, build it on Dataverse. So I call these our can't find what they're looking for project. And these are where I have built core business systems for small businesses based on Dataverse, integrated with other systems. Another one of the types, so there's 3 types of projects. Another type of project that we work on is our Plug a Gap project. This is where we have customers who have an existing technology landscape that pretty much meets their needs, but there's one thing it doesn't do, okay? And so we build an app to plug that gap. We call these our Plug a Gap solutions. Their existing system meets pretty much most of what they need to do, except for this one thing. Example of this is a local Canterbury company that does precast concrete, and for regulatory compliance, they needed to capture photos at various points in the fabrication process. And so we built an app that plugged that gap. Okay. The last type of project. So these broadly categorized, these are the type of projects that we work on for small businesses. We call this our talk nicely to each other projects. They have cloud-based systems. They don't talk to each other. They have cloud-based systems and they want to exchange data between these systems, whether that's synchronizing some of their master data from their ERP or bringing in transactions from another system. Okay, so they have bits of software that talk to each other. What we build is the bit in the middle, custom integration. Depending on the project, that may be Azure, we may use Azure integration services. So whether that's a service bus and logic apps, or it may be Power Automate, depending on the requirements of the project. Okay, so those are the types of projects that we work on for small businesses. Right, and I just need to start the slider. What I would like to do is, if you can scan this QR code. I want to find out, and can people online scan that as well? Does anyone need a link?
You should be able to do it just on the screen in Teams from your phone.
Okay.
That's what I did.
I want to know is, what do you think when you think of small business and we think the measure we're going to use is the number of employees? When you think of a small business, what does it mean? How many employees? You were to categorize a small business and you needed to categorize it in terms of employees. Put a range of values in there. What does it mean?
New Zealand, world.
Yeah, I'm talking about New Zealand, okay? New Zealand small businesses, small Kiwi businesses. What's small? What's small? What's something that's small to you might be large to me. Right, so we have a few responses. And I'm going to show you what the responses are. So I'll probably
Take the screen over.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a screenshot and post it.
stop presenting. I hadn't thought through how I
Were you recording this, by the way?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Share your screen.
I'm not there. I'm sharing without being connected.
But you're presenting, so you
Yes,
should.
sir, I'll post this. I just took a screenshot. I'll post it.
Oh, do you know what can everyone see it? Can everyone see the results on their thing?
Yes. Oh, you can see it on your phone.
Oh, you can see it on the
Yeah,
phone?
yeah.
Okay, so I haven't used Slido before in a presentation. Okay, so hot off the press, the results just in.
The screen?
Because I'm already sharing. Oh, I can share as well as.
Yeah, because it depends on the window.
Woohoo! Technology, eh? So, hey, thanks for submitting that. So we've got so 0 to 5, so 0 to 20, 43%, 0 to 20, 0 to 50. Interesting, 0 to 30. I bet that person works at Microsoft.
That'll be a yes.
Really some results.
I bet that person works at Microsoft because that's the Microsoft definition. Okay, so. Back to sharing. Where I was up to, was it from the start? Okay, so some definitions. At the end of the session, in my last slide, I've got links to where I found this information. I've got some references. Okay, so MYOB had a blog post where they defined small, medium and large businesses. MYOB, 1 to 20 employees, 0 to 20 employees is a small business. I think that their other things were the 50 medium, 50 plus large. So according to the MBIE, which is the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, New Zealand has a higher percentage of small and micro businesses than other countries. Okay. Also, our large enterprises in New Zealand tend to be smaller than large enterprises in other countries. Okay. So other countries, so MBIE define it as 0 to 20 employees. In Ireland, it's 50 or less, similar definition for the EU, 18 to 40. But what I want to highlight here is that for Microsoft, a small business is 1 to 300 employees. In New Zealand, imagine you're in the provinces, not in one of your large sister cities. In the provinces, organisation at the upper end of that scale is going to be a significant business in the province. It's going to be a large organisation. And it most likely will be a significant employer in a small city or a large town. So the point of this is for us to get a common understanding of what we're talking about when we say small business. That for New Zealand, our small and micro businesses tend to be smaller than other countries.
I think that's also with Microsoft, with what they say, because their enterprise licensing starts at 250. So the crossover is like they put.
And that for Microsoft as a global corporation, and globally that might be a relevant figure, but in New Zealand, our businesses are smaller. Okay, so I've worked in large enterprises and I've worked in small businesses. And so what's different? Why do we need a different approach? Or why do I think we need a different approach? So see, these are some of the key characteristics about small businesses that I believe means that we need a different approach. If there's one thing you walk away with today, it is this: small Kiwi businesses don't have layers. If we think about, if you work for a large organisation, think about the organisation chart of the company that you work in, assuming you work in a large organisation. So there's often a GM, a CEO at the top, an executive team, and then there might be a next layer, and then there might be middle management, then there might be even a bigger layer. There might be vertical segments by markets, by country, by region. Small Kiwi businesses don't have layers. If they had an organisation chart, there'd be one box at the top, be the top dog, and everyone else is one layer down. We don't have layers. They, unless they happen to be a technology company themselves, a lot of them don't have internal IT capability or capacity. And this was a shock to me, but a lot of them, unless they have worked with a modern workplace practice, they use SharePoint as an online file share. So there's no setting up of content types or metadata. There's no setting up of different sites or using news posts, all those other great things we can use SharePoint for. They use it as an online file share. So just like in the olden days when I worked at AUT or other organizations, there was an iDrive and a J drive and an M drive, etc. So SharePoint, small Kiwi businesses, and online file share. Small to mid-sized Kiwi businesses in New Zealand, they use Xero. The majority of them use Xero. So this is a gem from one of my customers. They don't care what it's called. They just want it to work. Literally, one of my customers said to me, Sarah, I don't care what it's called. I just want it to work. They don't care that PowerFX now has its own logo. They don't care that Power Apps is called this or Power Automate is called that. They just want their technology to work. And interestingly, keep walking in front of that. Small Kiwi businesses in New Zealand are also changing because digital natives are now becoming business owners. In my experience, this is just my experience. I don't have any statistics to back this one up, but in my experiences, companies that have been formed in the last few years, my experience, they seem to have more digital capability than organisations that may have grown over the last 20 years and may have still rely on a lot of paper-based processes.
I'm just trying to qualify that. So you mean that digital natives are a digital business versus a traditional business? Is that what you're trying to say?
What I'm trying to say there is that in New Zealand, there's lots of small businesses, and they're often set up at home, husband and wife team that have husband and wife, and they have a team, or someone sets up in their garage, etc. The people, the age of these business owners, as digital native people are aging, they are starting to become business owners, and digital technology is native for them, and what's natural for them is to have an app to solve their problems and to work with an app. Okay, and anecdotally, what I'm experiencing, I haven't got any stats, but what I'm experiencing is that companies formed in recent years, they say because the owners tend to be more digitally savvy, more likely, in my experience, to have some apps in place, as opposed to a company that might be 20 years old and has grown organically. And
yeah.
Okay. Plus, we've got these people who are digital natives, and they're going to be moving into business ownership, and their expectations are different to perhaps an older person who hasn't grown up with apps. Makes sense?
Yep.
I hope that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, so some of the reasons they're different, and in practice, what's different. So we have smaller project teams, and one of the benefits of that is lower communication overheads. However, smaller project teams means there's less people to generate ideas. And what I found is that my customers rely on me to bring my experience of working with different organisations and different processes, different organisations, and bringing that experience to the table. So the project teams are smaller. Corporate functions, so by this I mean your accounts payable, accounts receivable, your HR processes, your health and safety. Those functions are part of a role, not a whole department. Okay, so there could be, depending on the size of the organisation, there's different management practices change as an organisation grows. So when you're looking at sort of 1 to 5 employees, the owner of the business is still on the tools and managing the business as well as being on the tools. And then you get to sort of 10 staff, and the owner of the business hands off some of these corporate functions, accounting or health and safety, etc. So these corporate functions, they are part of a role and not a whole department, not a whole department of people. So one of the things I love about the Power Platform is the opportunity to have citizen developers come in and help create these apps and have input into apps. But in these small businesses, there's no citizen developers because there's not many staff. Also, I work with a lot of businesses in the civil construction industry, and their staff are out there on their machines are diggers and trucks and bulldozers. They're not PCs and laptops. So there's not really the opportunity for them to be citizen developers. The relationship is different. By that I mean small Kiwi businesses. There's a lot more trust inherent in the relationship, in my experience, than in large organisations. So I have contracts. I have contracts with my customers, but what I find is that that there is a higher element of trust in the relationship, early in the relationship. It's not so you need to earn their trust, but the trust, in my experience, comes a lot earlier in the relationship. So practically, what does this mean? When I'm implementing Dataverse-based solutions, typically I'm configuring 2 custom Dataverse security roles, and usually they're called management and field workers, and so that's because there's not too many roles out there in the organisation. Where I might configure more is if there's integration and we're using a Dataverse application user, and I'll probably configure an integration role to apply to the application user. Let's see. Okay. Remember those project types? Does anyone remember? Can anyone tell me what a name or a description of some of the types of projects that I work on? A gap?
Yep.
Plug a gap. Good on you. Right, that. Would you like honey? Would you like a honey or a cap?
Oh, honey.
Great.
And Nathan can probably attest to the deliciousness or otherwise of that honey. Okay. Anyone else?
Find what they're looking for.
EJ, good on you. Oh,
That was a hard one.
I'll get.
Oh, I know you're looking
I
for.
was just
That's
trying to remember
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
I'll get a cap. Yeah, represent teal.
Oh, has it got your branding on? Oh.
I know anyone online?
Online.
Anyone online? And is there anyone online knowing?
I don't see anything, but yeah, for anybody online, you definitely want to enter for that honey is amazing. Otherwise I'm taking a turn.
Who can tell me what the last type of project that I work on?
Fill a gap, just in time, and
Make them talk or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk nicely to each other. I
Yeah.
named that one
Yeah.
after my dad.
Yeah.
I named that one after my dad. He used to say that to me, my little sister. Talk nicely to each other. Okay, so anyone else want some honey? This honey is from
I don't feel I deserve it because I'm.
this honey from the Teal software. We sponsored a beehive.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
So that's South Canterbury honey. Okay.
thank you.
So remember those. So this slide isn't just about the honey, but what I've so I have these in my experience. So this is just my experience to date, and so maybe in 2 years' time things might be different. But I can't find what we're looking for. Those solutions I've built for the small, the 5 to 20 employees. So despite the fact that there are they use Xero and the Xero marketplace, there's any number of apps in the Xero marketplace, but we build core business systems based on Dataverse. A gap, they tend to be larger organizations for me, the mid to large, and by that, but I'm using Sarah's term and not Microsoft's term there, so that's sort of like the so 20 to 50, or my largest customer is, they hover sort of 110, 120, and talk nicely to each other. Again, that's sort of the mid to large. They've got their software that they want to talk to, and that they want people to talk to. They want their software to talk to each other. cloud-based software.
Can I just share one of my methods
Yes.
on that? To me, the left hand should always talk to the right hand. And the right hand should always talk to the left hand, no matter what you're doing. Often do we find that happening? That's why you're plugging the software with talk to each other. I lost it.
Talk nicely to each other. Yep. Okay, so that's, yes, so I think maybe that might change as I work on more projects. I don't know, but that's my feel for Power Platforms, small to mid-sized Kiwi businesses.
Sarah,
Yes.
I've got a question. I don't know if you're gonna address this later on, but so in your first option, can't find what we're looking for. How do you find that once you've built it, do people run into the problem of we've grown from 5 employees and now we're a bit bigger and the solution that we've built that kind of perfectly worked for us as a 5-person organization now doesn't work? Can you bring that thought process into apps that you're crafting for them?
So I haven't encountered that.
Okay.
But that's, I haven't encountered that probably just because I've only been creating these apps for small businesses for 2 or 3 years. But one of my things when we're building apps, one of the things that I'm interested in is strategically, where are you going?
Yeah.
And in 5 years' time, how big are you going to be, and how so obviously from Dataverse perspective, it can scale to any number of hundreds of users, but their management practices will change in their organization.
I have a question though, almost on that. So if you happen to have or be using 15 users, thanks. What about the one source of truth from the Dataverse when you're already using CRM? Is when you're doing your apps.
So my customers don't use
Okay.
Dynamics 365.
Okay.
They don't. So in Dynamics 365 and small Kiwi businesses, it's overkill for them.
Okay.
In my experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've had a couple of questions. If there's any questions, I'm not sure if anyone online might have some questions.
Don't see anything.
But if there's no questions for me, then I've got a couple of questions for the MVPs in the room. If no one else has any, if no one has any questions for me.
Where are those guys?
Yeah, who are those people?
Who are they?
Specifically for Nathan, and that's Power FX formula columns. I was checking today and it still says a preview.
Yeah, so it looks like it is still in preview. I suspect it's going to be GA very soon because that supports decimal precision now. And I haven't played with it yet, but I have seen them talking about currency. So if it doesn't do it yet, I think that's coming very soon. So those are the two things that for me, if it does that, I'd say they're very close to GA. But that's just Nathan's opinion, not violating any NDA agreement.
Yeah, it's very soon for the
Microsoft is listening.
release paper.
And does anyone else in the room or on the call, custom pages, when are they fully GA? Like for,
Should be now.
no, they're not GA on the mobile player. There's public preview on the mobile player.
Oh, okay.
Not GA. Is it all?
Know this because I went live with a customer, custom pages on the mobile device.
Oh, okay.
The GA for on any number of other things, but mobile player, Teams, custom pages and model-driven apps and Teams and mobile players still
I
preview.
thought it was in Teams. Okay. So I thought they pushed it like about 6 weeks ago. Okay.
Any questions for me? One online, and I mentioned I had some references. Oh, this one here was quite interesting. small business, just a little fact sheet with some graphs and stats.
Not that I have any dealings to, sorry, I have no affiliation directly being paid for with the website. But it's a great resource. There's a swag of resources on there that if you have a hunt around, you'll be amazed what's on that website. Untold, even just for small business getting you started.
Yeah, so that's everything that I wanted, everything I had on my list to say today. But if there's any questions, I'm happy to take questions, or anything else you want.
Is there something you could share that you've done that you're
Um,
allowed to share? I appreciate if there's non-disclosure or whatever, but is there something that you've actually done that you found was just a ticket for?
I can't share it on the screen at the moment, but in terms of custom pages, my favorite thing to use custom pages for is to add records in bulk.
Right.
So as an example, I went to, I've got a construction company in South Canterbury, and this was a their plug a gap solution. We had to take photos. I basically built a bill of materials that allowed them to also take photos during the production process. And the way they wanted to do it is, so they do precast panels, and they wanted to be able to assign the panels to particular devices or users, and so I built a custom page, and I wish I could show it, but at the moment it's filled with their data and I can't show it on the screen. They choose the device that it goes to, the type of docket. So they're both bill of materials, but one's a pour sheet where they're going to actually pour the concrete. The other's a steel docket where they're assembling the reinforcing and things inside the panel. And then they select their projects and stages that they're doing these dockets for, and they can do that, any number of them, and then that gets created as a record assigned to the user. So that was one of my favorite things to do with custom pages. And also for that same customer, because these are a bill of materials and they're actually adding materials onto this docket. So a common pattern is a header and the line item. Adding the line items, they were just, I built it as a model driven app, and they're on tablets, and they were really frustrated with how slow it was. So I built a custom page where they could multi-select the materials and tick, 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 and then add in the quantities and batch numbers or the heat numbers for the steel if that was needed, and that speeded up the process so much for them. The problem was that custom page isn't yet GA, and I thought that it was when we went live, and we've had some problems with it. So I'm really hoping that it's going to go general availability. But yeah, my favorite thing to do, my favorite thing to use custom pages for is adding those records in bulk.
I have a question. Do you have any plans to open AI in any of your?
Sorry, I couldn't hear
Do you
that.
have any plans to use the open AI in any of?
Open AI. So I'm not sure. So at the moment, I can't think of use cases for my customers at the moment, and whether or not that's because I don't have the creativity to think that way, or so like, you know, one of the parts of the Power Platform is Power Virtual Agents, and how when I was doing my certification, there was quite a bit. I was actually really surprised in the PL 100 how many questions were related to Power Virtual Agents.
Yep.
There's hardly anything to it, right? There's the topics and the fallbacks and the whatever else. But my customers, small businesses, they don't create chatbots. They don't want chatbots, and so I think from my perspective, that's where that generative AI type thing might be useful. And for me, my customers, they don't build chatbots.
So what about the Copilot?
Copilot. So again, maybe it's because I've been a bit busy over the last couple of months, but for me, so far, Copilot has been a whole lot of hype, because when it first was Copilot, you had to live in the US to sign up to try it.
Yeah, and you can't put it in production yet. That's the frustrating. It's okay to test it,
Yeah.
but as we found out with your Power Pages, which I thought was live, it's not live yet. So here you are. And how long's Power Pages been out as a name
Custom
now?
pages. Oh, it's custom pages,
Just
not
custom
Power
pages.
Page. No,
Yeah.
Power Pages, custom. Yeah. So it's
How long's that been out? Like 3 months, 4 months?
Yeah.
3 years.
3 or something.
For a while.
Is it 2 years?
Yeah, at least. Mm.
Yeah. So Copilot for me, I think because when I went to play with it, I couldn't play with it because I didn't live in the US, and then there's been all this hype, but I haven't actually played with it yet, and so I think it's the sort of thing that's going to help citizen developers.
Maybe somebody help me here. Is Bing using Edge? Is that Copilot when you answering the questions and answers there with the chat? Is that Copilot in the background?
No idea.
Yeah, it's like there's an enterprise Copilot as part of Bing, more of a business.
I understand Copilot is the business side of it, but I thought that Copilot behind Bing to get it started, I thought that's what they used. They're still using Microsoft servers and collecting information of Bing, reorganized it, but because when you go on that side panel and you start chatting to Bing, effectively, I thought that was also Copilot, because you can do coding on that and do a whole swag of stuff.
Okay, I haven't used it. So.
Yeah, it's amazing and it's free.
Well, because that's external content, right? Which is indexed by Bing as well. Yeah, which is different to the Copilot with Power Platform, because that's based on the information from the Azure background. All information travels on the Azure background, which is obviously customer centric. So it's a division between what's external, which is the Bing.
I still thought there was an enterprise Copilot, and then if you want to make it private, you host it on Azure.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. The public and the internal one, which is on the Azure background.
When you're working with the smaller companies, Sarah, how much do you find that you're pulling them into the modern world and digitizing some of their, I guess, for lack of a better term, low value work, or repeatable work, versus them pulling you? I've got some close friends who run a small business, and they're a bit older than me. And when I'm drinking coffees with them, my consultant brain can't stop watching what's going on and just saying, have a chat bot for this. You could have a flow for that,
Yeah.
And the response is, well, what I do all day. And I'm just curious as to what your experience is.
So earlier I mentioned how the project teams are smaller, and that I need to bring a lot to the table. I'm bringing a lot of my experience to the table. And I have found that that I have, and earlier in my career, like when I worked 6-7 years ago, I worked on a project with a trucking company, a logistics company, and we introduced devices into the trucks. And I was like, oh, we're going to get rid of paper. We're going to do this or this. And they were just like, hell no, we're not. Yeah. So I had, and from that, I sort of tapered back my enthusiasm a bit. But I find that, so for example, the Shed Shop, you can read a case study on my website about the Shed Shop. They were predominantly paper-based processes, and when I was initially working with them, I said, okay, so what's the end goal here? Are you going to get rid of paper? Is there going to be no paper in the factory anymore, or are we sort of just aiming to be streamline these processes and stuff? So I'm going a bit round about it, and going about it in a roundabout way, but what I'm trying to say is I actually bring to the table and I try and push them towards some utopian goal.
Yeah.
But we take baby steps to get there.